Hi, and welcome to Google Developers Live. My name is Ying, and with me today is my colleague Mihai.
Hi.
Today we're talking about wallet objects. Specifically, we're talking about the quick starts for wallet objects. What we'll be doing is walking through getting the C# quick start up and running. We have a variety of quick starts, but today we're talking specifically about the C# one. The quick starts are designed to provide sample code to give you an understanding of how the Wallet Objects API works. Within it, we cover a few topics. One is authorizing access, inserting a new Wallet Objects class, using the Save to Wallet button or Save to Wallet JavaScript to insert objects, and lastly, enabling the Web Service API and Discoverables so users can discover your loyalty program and join from within the Google Wallet app. You can find documentation about the API on our developer site at developers.google.com/wallet/objects. And to show you how to get this Wallet Objects quick start up and running, here's Mihai.
Thank you, Peng. So the easiest way to get started with the sample, the C# sample, is to go to our developer documentation and follow the easy step-by-step instructions on how to get set up, download the code, run the code, and test it, modify it. The URL, I have it right here on the screen, is developers.google.com/wallet/objects/quickstart.c#, and you can also easily get to the sample using the left side navigation controls. So we see here we have a few steps. The first one is get credentials, and we have covered that in a different Developers Live video. You can find that on Developers Live, and the easiest way to search for it is go to developers.google.com/live/wallet and look for a GDL called a video called account setup, and it should look something like this, and that will tell you how to get your Wallet Objects developer account set up, including all the credentials mentioned here. So we won't cover that in this video. So we will move right to step 2, which is download the Quickstart project. We are hosting all our samples and demos on GitHub. They're all open source. You can download them, modify them. And in this case, the code is hosted under the Google Wallet repo, and I already have it in here. If you go to github.com/Google Wallet, you will find all our quick starts, and Wallet Objects Quick Start C# is what you want to look for, and it's right there. And the easiest way probably to download the sample is to clone it. You can either download the zip, unzip it, and put the code in a location of your choosing, or clone it to desktop. And cloning is easily done if you're running on a Windows machine. In this case, you're doing C#, so most likely you're using a Windows machine. You can use GitHub for Windows. It's a very nice utility, and I already have it on the screen. In this case, it lists all the repositories under Google Wallet, and I have already downloaded the Wallet Object Quick Start sample. In your case, the first time you'll see a clone button. Just click on it, and then it'll clone it on your machine, and you can start from there. So going back to our tutorial, once you have downloaded the sample, make a note of the directory where you downloaded it, and then we move to the next step, which is configuring and finally building the C# project. Best way to run C# on Windows is to use Visual Studio Express. You can download it for free from Microsoft. And once you have Visual Studio up and running, you can simply load the C# Quickstart C# project solution into Visual Studio. And I have Visual Studio running here, and this, if you look on the right side on the Solution Explorer, this is how your solution will look like. And I will go through each one of those one by one. So first, let's look what else we need to have the project correctly set up. First of all, there is a web.config file, and in there we will need to update quite a few fields. So remember, in the beginning I mentioned that you need to have your wallet objects account properly set up, and after you do that, there are a few variables that you need to make note of, and you will need to use those when you update your web.config file. So let's start here in this app settings section in the web.config file, and we have a few important fields. It's the first one is the service account ID, which is your email, your developer email that links your service account with your wallet object account. And it looks something like this, a number at developer.gserviceaccount.com. And just quickly, I'm gonna show you, you can find that in your Cloud Console. More details, as I mentioned, are in the account setup tutorial, but the email ID, the service account ID, is something like this over here. So all of those, you should have them available by the time you get to the web.config file. The next one is your private key file. That one you would also download it from your Cloud Console and rename it to something that suits you. In this case, I just called it key.p12, and you copy that in the instruction point you to copy it in the wallet objects C# directory, and you can see it in the Solution Explorer is right here. Next, we have the issuer ID, which is your wallet objects developer ID. You'll have to put the correct value in here. And next, the application name, that's something of your choosing. Next, we have origins, where you can have a list of URLs. Those are basically domains where you would run your application on. And the reason you need to list them here is that in order to use the Save to Wallet functionality, the Save to Wallet button would need to have this information and post this information to Google to uniquely identify your application. So list in here all the URLs where you would host your application. And finally, we have some IDs, loyalty class ID, loyalty object ID. These are usually used for debugging. I do a lot of debugging, and you see here I have a 02 in front of it, so I change this a lot so I can see which classes I'm modifying and which objects I'm modifying. So these, you can leave them as they are or give them whatever names you prefer, and then they will be listed in your merchant dashboard. I will get to that a little bit later. So once we have added and modified all the values in here and everything is correctly set up, then we can go to the next step, which is loading the sample in Visual Studio and running it. So I'll switch back to Visual Studio, and in this case it looks like we're ready to run the sample. One more thing that you should pay attention to: the first time you are loading the Quickstart sample, you may not have all the assembly, all the library references set up correctly. So in that case, you would go to Tools, Library Package Manager, Manage NuGet Packages for Solution. And in my case, probably it's all set up correctly and I don't have to do anything. In case you need to update the packages, you will get a dialog which says you have some missing packages. Click a restore button or something else to bring everything up to date. So in this case, it looks like I'm fine. And I think I built it. It's all built up. Let's try to run the app. So to run it, you go to debug, either start debugging or start without debugging. Let's start debugging. And as a web server, we are using the local ASP.NET development server, and which runs on localhost, and this is a port number. So this is how the sample looks like. We have two steps. One, we provide two buttons to insert a loyalty class or an offer class. These are mostly for debugging purposes. You will not have them on your website, but they're very good to try to insert and test different classes. So let's click on the first one, insert a loyalty class. And as I mentioned earlier, what this does, it will create a class into your Google Wallet account, and then you can verify that that class has been created, and how it looks like if you go to your merchant dashboard. So let's switch back to the merchant dashboard, which I believe is here. And you can see the loyalty class here, and you remember I mentioned that I put a digit in front of the class so that it always pops up at the top of the list. I have a lot of classes I've been using for testing here. And this is the class we just inserted. And if you click on the preview button, you can also get a lot of details about the various objects inside here. So same, if we insert an offer class, you can go back and verify that it has been added, and then you can quickly preview it. Now step 2 is where things get more interesting. If I hover over this Save Card to Google button, you'll see that it shows that I'm signed in as a demo account called John Smith. And when I click the button, your app will send some information back to Google, which will make this loyalty card, will add this loyalty card to your wallet account. So let's do that. That's quick. So now your loyalty card has been saved, and you will have it in your wallet account. And we'll see it later on when we continue the demo. Same thing with an offer. I like an offer. I want to get the offer. So we have this Get Coupon button. I click on it, and now the coupon has been saved to my wallet. So wherever I go, I can just look at the phone, go to my saved coupons and use it. Same with the loyalty cards. If I need to use my loyalty points or just the loyalty ID when I make a purchase, I go to my phone and I find it. It's all there. So this concludes the step 1 and step 2 parts of the demo. Now we learned how to create and insert loyalty and offer classes, and how to create objects of that particular type and save them to your wallet. Next, we will learn how to create discoverables. So what are discoverables? Discoverables are a way for consumers to find your program from within the Google Wallet app. The Wallet app has a very wide distribution, and this is a great way for you to get in front of millions of consumers. How do you create a discoverable? I will switch back to your Wallet Objects merchant dashboard, and on the left side, click on the discoverable link. And in here, you will see a list of variables that you have to fill in that describe your particular program. Everything from name, URL, description, to all kinds of logos, banners, to make your program very descriptive and appealing to consumers. Once all that information is correctly entered, I will scroll down to the end of the page where you see merchant callback configuration. This is the actual website where your web service API will be used. And in here you specify the host, an HTTPS service with on a the HTTPS port, and inside the sample you will find the code that allows you to use this service. This is the place where you specify the URI endpoints where Google will send the sign up and linking information for new customers. And with that said, let's continue doing some demo. So I'll pass on to my colleague Peng, who will show you how it all appears on the phone.
Cool. Thanks, Mihai. All right, so let's take a look at the latest wallet app. I'll bring it up, and I'm actually on a loyalty view already. So right here is it's also logged in with GWallet demo, or the same user that Mihai was using in Chrome, right? So I jumped to the loyalty page, and I already see the loyalty object that was previously saved. I can also look at the offers page to see the offer as well. In this case, it's our demo offer, which is bacon Rista coffee. So cool. We can take a little closer look at what was saved, all the colors. Man, that thing is colorful. Okay, so now let's take a look at how the Discoverable works. I deleted my loyalty object. I'm going to add a new program. And in this case, because currently the Discoverable is in draft mode, we can't find it in the list of featured programs. So the way that we'll have to find it is we'll have to click into add a loyalty program and enter our merchant name. In this case, it's Bacon Rista GDL. And you see it comes up directly, so I can join as a new member. This account doesn't have the phone number saved, but typically it would be saved, so I wouldn't have to enter it in again. 555 5555. Then I can just check these boxes and create a new loyalty account. So what's happening now is that Google is sending a message with my information to the endpoint that Mihai specified. And then what that endpoint does is it reads that packet, or it reads that message, creates an object, and then sends that object back to Google. Once Google gets that, it then pushes the object to my mobile device associated with my account, so I can take a look at Bacon Rista rewards right here. Cool, so that was a quick demo. And to go over how everything works and how all of the different classes and things work, here's Mihai again to talk a little bit more in depth about the technical details of the Quickstart.
Thank you, Peng. So now let's look at some of the most important files, or the ones you may need to modify. Looking at the Solution Explorer, we will focus on the handlers directory, the utils directory, the verticals directory, and the web page, your app web page under app.js. Let's look at app.js. This is the JavaScript used to generate your landing web page. And at the top, we see that we'll use two handlers in here, the insert handler and the JWT handler. The insert handler is used to insert the loyalty class or the object class. When we click on the insert buttons, that's what happens. And the handler is implemented under the handlers directory in the wob insert handler file. The JWT handler is mapped to the wob generate JWT handler under the handlers directory, and it's used to generate the save to wallet JWT. The JavaScript dynamically inserts the JWT into the page. Next, let's look at the web service handler, which is over here. And the web service handler receives API requests and responds with an approved status and the object to insert. Next, we have a utils directory where we provide a lot of helper functions to simplify your coding, And among those, we have tools for generating JSON web tokens. So it's a very handy set of functions that you can use over and over to simplify your work. And finally, the verticals directory contains descriptions for your loyalty or offer objects and classes. And let's have a look at loyalty.cs. And in here we have the generate loyalty object function, and you look at this file and then look at the template in our documentation and see which fields you need to modify. For example, we have various modules, text module data that I'm highlighting in here. Then down below we have the links module data, which contains membership and member data, and info module data. So for all these modules, you can look at the documentation, the online documentation, to find out more about them. So now that you know how everything works, go ahead, download the demo, play with it, and let us know how it works.
That concludes the C# Quickstart GDL. We hope you found this video useful. It's just one in a series of videos that we're doing to help developers like yourself get started with the Wallet Objects API. Be sure to check our GDL page at developers.google.com/live/wallet, and follow us on Google+, we're Google Wallet, and on Twitter, Google Commerce Dev. Thanks for joining us for another week of Google Developers Live, and see you next time.